good Thursday morning to you here, and there's a sleepy Justice. Yeah, he's sleepy.
I'm a little tired.
That's because we worked hard yesterday over at the church and got a lot accomplished, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's quite used to running the way I run.
I don't do this sort of manual labor. Well, actually, no. I've never done this sort of manual labor. I've never built a telephone tower or radio tower before.
Well, we're doing it, ain't we?
It's not something I do on a normal Tuesday morning.
But it's fun things.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Hey, and we're getting there. We got a lot done yesterday. And good morning, everybody. I'm Rick Tallent, and with me is my sidekick for this week,
Justice Cabezas.
My grandson.
Sadly, it's my last day.
Your last day.
I'm going home.
Going home.
Yeah.
I'm going home. That sounds like a gospel song.
It probably is.
It is. Yeah, he's going to get delivered from hanging out with me.
My sister's coming to pick me up. I'm finally going to give him a haircut.
Yeah.
He needs it.
My barber at the first of the year, at the end of December, his landlord walked in, and after 15 years, told him, first of the month, you're out of here. He wasn't going to renew his lease, and he can't find a new place to set up his barbershop because there's a lack of commercial property available in this little town, which that's a good problem, but a bad problem. It's a bad problem because new businesses have a problem finding a place to set up business. It's a good problem because everything's occupied, but so the last time I had my haircut, I had to go to a place, and I just decided this time, since Emma was coming down, since she is a licensed hairstylist, I'll let her do it.
She's very good.
Is she? She's sharp.
Yeah. She says smart. She's not very good at the clipper cuts, though.
Well, she can't make me look bad. Trust me. Oh, anyway, it is Thursday morning, the 9th day of April, 2026, and this is Manna in the Morning, a grandpa and grandson edition. And like he said, this is he'll be heading back home this afternoon to Knoxville, Tennessee, but we plan on kidnapping him again real soon and seeing if we can't get some more work done around here. Let him escape from his multitude of brothers and sisters, and from his mother and his grandmother, and hang out with me and get in trouble. I mean, stay out of trouble. Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
We haven't gotten in trouble with the police yet. Keyword yet.
The police down here are nice. We won't get in trouble with the police down here.
Exactly.
As you said, I know everybody. He's finding out what life in a small town is like. He lives in Knoxville, so he's finding out what life in a small town is like. And LaFayette, Georgia is a town of about 8,000 people, and I'm surprised we haven't run into Mayor Andy or City Councilman Chris Davis or David Hamilton, City Manager, or some of the others. You have run into a number of other people, met a number of other people down here. And
I don't live in the city. I'm like a mile outside of the city line. But it's close enough to the city that it's like the city, basically.
Well, and in West Knoxville, you can be 20 miles from the county line and still be 20 miles from the city limits and still be in the urban Knoxville area. And that's the problem. Lenore City, where I grew up, used to be a little town like LaFayette, 25 miles from Knoxville. And now you can't tell when you leave.
It is no longer a small city. It's like 500,000 people or something like that.
It's been overrun by Knoxville. And there's something else that's happened there too. I think the church, many times, a lot of churches have been overrun by unbelief. People coming to church who don't want to believe the gospel the way the gospel is published, and preachers that are unwilling to preach the gospel the way it's published, who will stray from the truth in order to fill up a building. Now, maybe I'm a little bit of a different preacher, but I do not believe that the church should be a warehouse for people. And by that, if you're more concerned about filling up a building than what you are about seeing souls saved and lives changed, you've got a real problem.
The point isn't going to church. It's you can, church isn't as important as people say. Obviously church is very important. I'm not saying that, but there's a point in which people are more worried about going to church and less worried about actually, learning and,
being the church.
Yeah, being the church. Because there's only so much you can, shove off the Holy Spirit.
Well, going to church will make you a Christian, just like going to a garage will make you a car.
Yeah, it's very sad, very true.
And there's a lot of people that think that just by their church attendance that they're getting brownie points with God now. I'm getting brownie points with God now. I'm church every time the doors are open.
If I show up to work every single day, one second, let me silence my phone.
That's okay. Don't worry about
it. It gets mad at me. I get a lot of notifications, but what was I saying?
If you show up at church,
if I show up at work every single day, on time, every single day, but I don't do any work, and I just sit around all day, I'm not gonna get paid. I'm probably gonna get fired.
Well, it kind of negates being there on time, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's no point in being there if I'm not gonna do anything.
Oh, that'd make a good T-shirt, wouldn't it? If you're not going to be the church, why are you at church?
That's a good point.
Oh, let me write that one down real fast. That's another T-shirt there. If you're not going to be the church, why be at church? Okay.
He's actually writing it down.
Hey, some of these one-liners come up like this,
You got to write them down so you don't forget them.
Otherwise, I got to go back and listen to myself.
That's a little narcissistic.
I don't like doing that.
I hate the way I sound on radio. Or, generally recordings in general.
Well, in back when I started down in broadcasting, back in the dark ages, back when you had to ride a bicycle to keep the transmitter on, Fred Flintstone style. Back when I started out in broadcasting, what they always told us to do was go in there, grab the news off the teletype, off the AP or UPI machine, which was a continuous roll of yellow newsprint. It was a roll of newsprint about 11 inches wide, run through this thing. It looked like a typewriter. Well, it was constantly making noise because all the news was coming down on it. It was typing it down. You go in there and you wait, and when it stops long enough, you rip it off. You go in, you read the news. Decide which ones you're going to do for the news, and you read the news. But what they would tell us is do that or take a book or a story and read it into a tape recorder and listen to yourself, critique yourself, and do it over and over and over until you're happy with how you sound, with your enunciation, with your reading, with the way that you punctuate your vocal sentences.
The way I talk isn't the reason why I hate my voice. It's just, in my mind, my voice sounds a lot deeper, and to me, I always sound like a child on a recording.
Well,
and I know I am a child technically because I'm not over 18, but I sound like I'm 14, and I don't want to sound 14.
Then you need to start speaking from deeper in.
Yeah, I gotta start going deeper in my vocal range.
It's just like
that just
anything
hurts,
else. As you, the more that you do something, the more comfortable that you become at doing it. The more this boy is not a morning person.
No, I'm not. Not in a million.
And he's not a coffee person either.
I can't stand coffee.
But the more that you do something, the more adept at it you should become. The more that you do something, the more experienced at it you should be, and the more comfortable that you should be at doing it. And that's the reason why you're taught in the old days, in the old school, you were taught to sit before a microphone, sit up straight, not slouch, sit up straight so that you can breathe properly, and read a book, read whatever on the tape. And that's why even when I'm talking, you'll notice that the way that I talk is also the way that you talk on the radio. Inflection in voice, enunciation, all of this. And I do that anytime I'm in front of a microphone, it's automatic. But that's half a century of doing it, you know. Somebody asked me one time, said, how did you get to be so comfortable doing interviews on television? Real simple. I sat down there, I looked at the camera and said, hi, I'm Rick Tallent, and guess what we're going to do today? This is today's program. You know, there's things that happen in church that people get offended at because they don't understand it. And many times they don't understand it because they don't want to understand it, because it's different than what they were taught.
I think a lot of the problem the church has today is the fact that the church doesn't like change, especially big change. And I hate to say it, but a lot of times it's that older crowd that's, you know, they want to sit on the back pew and cross their arms the entire service and, you know, talk to their friends. And they don't want to see the change of, you know, the younger crowd getting in there and, you know, raising their hands. And I will be honest, some of it is my generation. Some of my generation doesn't like change either. But it's a lot of times people just, they don't understand that while God doesn't change, the way he does stuff does. And like music from, you know, your generation has changed a lot compared to what my generation listens to. Even in, you know, like
But does that make
Christian
music
contemporary.
from your generation more holy than music from my generation?
No, your generation still has some of the best music I've ever heard in my life. Like I've had this song, what was it? Since I Laid My Burdens Down, stuck in my head all weekend, and it was one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life. But one of my all-time favorite worship songs is I forget what it was.
And you just drew a blank.
Yeah, it's too early this morning. It's a Brandon Lake song, and I forgot what it was. But it's a newer, more modern song, and it's not. But it
speaks to you.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we need to integrate part of the older generation songs.
Now,
but we also need to make sure that we're not just sticking to all old songs. Well, yes, you can worship to that. You have to go based on certain generations, because it's going to be harder for my generation to worship to that, because they're not used to all that. It's not hard for me because I've heard that my entire life.
That's
but
right. Some of it is that there's different styles of music, and in broadcasting, we separate music out by genres, and we have a lot of different ones.
Genres,
for example, or types of music.
Did you say genres or genres? Genres?
Yeah, it's by different styles of music.
I know what genres is, but you pronounced it genres.
Well, you know, I'm a hillbilly. Okay?
Genres? That's not
genres.
I mean, okay. I realize that's how it's spelled, but
boy, I'm gonna lay hands on you with the word of God here in the mouth. But for example, country, pop, rock, contemporary. Okay, and within those you have different music as well. Like in country, you've got new country, old country, classic country. Same way with bluegrass, same way with bluegrass is part of country. Some people, the particular style of music that they like, they think is more worshipful than other styles of music. But for example, what Caleb plays in from a broadcaster's viewpoint, is adult contemporary music. It's what we call adult contemporary in broadcasting. It's contemporary music. It's not youth music. It's not seniors music. It's adult, medium adult, median adult.
It's that middle of the road where both of them
25
can kind
to
of.
50-year-old music style. It's not rock, although there is a contemporary rock music. Okay. So you have all these different styles of music. And what I see happen in the church is that someone will have a particular style of music that they prefer. And they come in, they try to force it upon everybody rather than integrate the different styles of music into the overall worship service. One of the problems, and you and I have discussed this week, is that continuity. When you are, and your mother and I have discussed this too, my daughter Sarah, when you are in a church service, it's not like you're listening to music at a concert. A concert is one venue. A worship service is another venue. Listening on the radio is another venue.
I'm not going to mention names because, I don't want to
get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I don't want to get myself in trouble. But I will say there are certain churches out there, especially the mega churches, where you have to wait outside in line just to get into the church. And I don't think that should be how church is.
And then when you get in there, it's like a rock concert.
Yeah, I don't think church should be this giant show that you put on. It's not supposed to be, a church is supposed to be there so that you can go there, you can learn about God, and so that you can go forth and multiply the kingdom of heaven. And no matter how hard you try, that's never going to be a worship. It's never going to be a worship service if every single service you got.
It's a pep rally.
Yeah, it's a pep rally.
Now, folks, for the record, how long have you and I been hanging out together? A few days.
Since Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. But before that, due to some family dynamics, we've only been in contact with each other for a few months, right? So
almost a year, because the first one was in June.
I have not had time to corrupt this young man yet. Okay, so what he is talking about, he's speaking from his heart.
When we were waiting outside the church,
thing that I preach so often, and that is, I'm sick and tired of the pep rally church, where it's like we've got all these people coming in. Now we've got a plan. What have we got to do? We got to work up their emotions. We got to work them up and so that they'll worship God. Working up emotions like a pep rally is not worshiping God.
I'm not going to say a pastor is a terrible person if they do this, and I'm not going to say they're any less of a good pastor. But if a pastor is going around buying private jets and Rolexes, that's not a very good thing to spend money on.
Not a very good testimony of being frugal about God's work, is it?
Yeah, like one of my favorite preachers ever, Billy Graham.
Great.
Man was super rich, like absolutely loaded. But guess what he did? Well, yes, he did use the money to go buy private jets and Rolexes. He also used the money to go do what's the word?
The work of the ministry.
Yeah, the work of the ministry. He would build houses in Africa. He would use his thousands of millions of dollars to go help people that can't afford that sort of stuff.
Here's the thing. For some people, they believe that the ministry, whether they say this with their mouth or not, they believe that the ministry is their personal get-rich-quick scheme. But the money's okay, and they use the scripture. Well, a workman's worthy of his hire. Okay, now I know what you went with me on a job the other day, and I told you, this is the kind of work I do, but it's highly specialized. There's not a lot of us that do it, and because of that, this is the rate that I charge for the work that I do. And when we got there, you saw it wasn't normal, just electronics work, was it?
No, you took the thing apart, and
it was equipment that you had never seen before. You've never seen it in a church sound system. You've never seen it on. It's different. It's totally different. And the way it's hooked up,
Then
and the way
again,
it operates.
I've never been in a radio station before, so that's not saying
That's
much.
right.
But still.
So it is specialized equipment. And that specialized equipment has specialized ways that it operates. And it's not the mass-produced common stuff that's out there. So to work on it, you have to have specialized training. Well, that specialized training is worth more than just working on standard run-of-the-mill stuff, okay? And it's just, where was I going with that?
I
just derailed. Anyway, so the value, when you're talking about a workman's worthy of his hire, yes, there are some job positions that are worth more compensation than others. But is the pastor of a church of 1,000 or the pastor of a church of 10,000, is he worth 10 times more in compensation? Should he have a golden parachute? And should his compensation package look like the compensation package of the president of Procter and Gamble? Okay. And in my opinion, first of all, I think most corporate executives are way overpaid. That the companies would find themselves to be much more profitable if they would cut out a lot of that greed that's in the upper management. And this is not a socialist idea. This is just a common sense business idea. Cut out some of the greed that's in the upper management and spend more on the people, the workers, so that you retain, not just obtain or attain, but retain workers who are quality. When it comes to the work of the kingdom, sure, a minister should receive compensation for the work, but at what point does he become a hireling? At what point does it happen when the church board calls him in and says, well, pastor, because of financial situation, we're going to have to cut your salary 25%. And he said, I'm out of here. Okay.
He cares more about the money than the actual.
If you care more about the money and the compensation package than you do about seeing souls saved and lives changed, then you are a hireling, according to the Bible.
And I'm not saying, that's not saying that.
And we're seeing a lot of hireling ministry in today's world, and very little of what I grew up with and let me just finish this thought and you can have it. But very little of what I grew up with were, if necessary, the pastor paid the utility bill if the money wasn't there. But not because he was just trying to keep the doors open, but because the reason he was there was to preach the gospel, to see souls saved and lives changed. He wasn't there to create himself a job to create an income. Because at that point, if that's the reason why you're there, then you are a hireling. And too many in the pulpits in America today are hirelings. You take the paycheck away and they're out of here. They'll be back to selling insurance or used cars.
And that's not saying that,
and in my opinion, go do it.
Yeah, that's not saying that you can't be a pastor and have money. Because, like I said, one of my all-time favorite pastors was Billy Graham. He was rich, but if all you care about is the money and all you use your money for is to make you look better,
there's something wrong.
There's something very wrong.
What does the Bible say? It says, for the love of money, and I like the way the New King James translates this, for the love of money is the beginning of all manner of evil doings.
That's very true.
Money itself is not corrupt, but it's how we perceive it and how we use it. And it can either be used for good or it can be used for corruption. Now, in the last couple of minutes, let's look at this real fast. Because while we're on some of these sacred cows, we might as well kill a few more. In 2 Chronicles chapter 5, it talks about the dedication of the temple. And it says here that as they were worshiping the Lord, and the key here is, and it came even to pass as the trumpeters and singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praising and thanking the Lord. Everybody wasn't just doing their own thing. They were in unity of body and mind and spirit.
And
When
if
they
you
lifted up their voice with the trumpets and all this, that then the house was filled with a cloud, even the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord had filled the house of God. Now, can you replace the Shekinah glory of God with a fog machine?
no matter how much you try, you're not gonna. There is something that comes when as you said, the Shekinah glory falls, and you can tell when it falls, and you can tell that it's there, and
It's not the emotionalism of the smoke coming
No.
from a fog machine, is it?
and don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying that it's Satan, but Satan will make falsehoods, imitations to try. And I'm not saying that that's Satan. That if you got lights and fog machines, that you're Satan incarnate. But I will say that sometimes Satan will lead people in certain directions so that they can
Imitate.
And it doesn't always mean it's not always. What's the word I'm looking for?
When you're imitating something, sometimes by the very fact that you're imitating it, you're mocking it.
Yeah, and don't ever mock God. No, not
No, that's how you become a crispy critter.
Yeah, that's how you get struck by lightning 7 times.
How do you want yours? Extra crispy or well done? Now, folks, in the last few minutes, you've heard 17-year-old Justice Cabezas, my grandson, talk about some of the same things you've heard me teach and preach and talk about on Manna in the Morning and Power for Survival and in personal conversations. We have not had the opportunity to be together a lot. He did not come up under me hearing me make these statements.
No, a lot of these things have come up on my own from reading the Bible and stuff like that.
Boy, I tell you what, you are a real troublemaker, aren't you? You actually believe we're supposed to do it by the word.
You mean we're supposed to read our Bibles?
Duh. Big red fire truck.
That's insane. Why would you ever read the Bible?
Well, see, that's just it. Bible, Bible. God's instruction book. Basic instruction before leaving Earth. Bible.
That's nice.
You
I like that. I'm going to use that one.
We used to use that one in children's church. I've given him a lot of one-liners. We're in the process of seeing what God's going to do next. But every step of the way is just like in 2 Chronicles chapter 5. I want it to be a move of God, not a move of the flesh. You can hype people up with the flesh and have a pep rally if you want to. And there's nothing wrong with having a pep rally. But if the Spirit of God is not there, then it is a mockery unto God. And that's my opinion. That, and how much is a cup of coffee nowadays? $3. I used to say 89 cents to buy you a cheap cup of coffee.
Yeah.
That 89 now it's probably $8.
Before we end,
10 seconds.
There is something in the Bible. I don't remember the exact words and I don't remember the verse, but it says that if you make fun of the Lord, then you're basically cooked.
Be not mocked. God is,
yeah. But it also says that if you fake, if you get into the spirit and you're like, there's people that'll shake and
in
all.
The flesh. Well, that may be in the spirit, but it may be in the flesh
as
well.
But if it's in the flesh, then it's mocking God. And even if you're doing it to make people look at you and say, "Oh, look how holy he is,"
look how spiritual.
That's not the spirit, and that is mockery of the flesh. And no matter how hard you try to make it not.
It's been great having you with me this week. We're going to do this again.
Oh yeah,
we're going to have a lot of fun.
I like this.
Until next time, this is Rick Tallent
Justice Cabeza.
saying, go with God because he has already gone before you and prepared the way. He is your rear guard. And no matter what happens, my friend, Jesus will always be right there
God
by
bless.
your side.
God bless.